And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Roster Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV here on livinginblack.com. My name is Kidi Awadu, aka the Conscious Rasta. Sundays, you and I get together with our team, our conscious team of African-centered researchers, and we look at what's happening in the world. We look at culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, Pan-African affairs, sustainable development, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Sunday. It is the 18th day of January, the year 2026 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6266 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we realign our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. Woo! I got it all in today. We pushed it, and we got it all in today. And I want to welcome to the program my brother, our co-host of today's show, Brother Dwara. We have you in the house. I'm going to put you up on the desktop so people can hear your voice. Greetings to you, Brother Dwara.
Greetings, Baba. Shikamo, Ubuntu Ma to the global LIB radio family.
Sawubona, I see you in the house, dear brother. And we welcome each and every one of our listening audience to the program today. I do believe Baba Junius is going to be in the house today. I didn't get a note from him saying otherwise, but you're with us, so I know the note did get out to him as well. And let's say greetings to our listening audience. Our beloved sister for Africa One is checking in bright and early. She is on the Barren Rock, aka the British mainland. And great to have you in the house today from United Kemet. She's not the Barren Rock. She's the United Kemet is in the house today.
Indeed.
How have you been, Brother Dwabra?
Been doing okay. Been doing well. Been doing very well. Just kind of trying to pull everything up in the background here. Still got a little bit of congestion, so bear with me, everybody. Other than that, hey, we African and we shine brightly. And we are going into the future with plans and preparedness.
That's right. That's right. And I just received notice just a second ago that unfortunately Dr. Charles Finch passed away yesterday. Are you familiar with Dr. Charles Finch?
I am. I was very familiar with him, was in contact with him last year. Regarding one of his books that I was trying to get a hold of. Him and his wonderful wife have been beloved staple members and elders of our people and our community here, especially in the United Snakes of APEP. And that's a huge loss for our people. So Ashe, may his name live on for 10,000 generations.
That's right. That's right. Dr. Charles Finch gave us so much. I had the honor, the pleasure of meeting him several times over about the last 30 years or so, beginning with the African Culture and Research Center of Long Beach, California. I pulled up a brief bio on Dr. Charles Finch. He graduated from Yale. No. This is different Dr. Charles Finch. Well, he's a board certified family physician, author, and scholar specializing in African history, science, and medicine. He did graduate from Yale University in 1971 and Jefferson Medical College in 1976. And he served at the University of California Irvine Medical Center. He completed a residency there. Just a couple more notes. He served as Director of International Health at Morehouse School of Medicine, leading projects on traditional healers in Senegal from 1981 to 1985, and working on AIDS-related initiatives in Southern Africa. He also taught African history and mathematics at the Commonwealth School in Boston and worked as an epidemiologist for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. His key books include The African Background to Medical Science, Echoes of the Old Dark Land, and The Star of Deep Beginnings. And also, recent work included African medicine. I recall speaking with a number of African centered medical experts. And at the time, I was very deeply engaged in the AIDS pandemic and especially what was being said. And I had come to a very firm conclusion that what was being said was absolutely deceitful.
Yes,
I know you have followed me and that research over the years.
for sure.
And I did the best I could to attempt to put together a group of our African centered scholars to explore this
Hmm.
from our distinct perspective. I was not able to complete that group, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there was one of these doctors
Hmm.
that was kind of offensive to me
Mm.
because I had mentioned it to him, tried to explain to him the critical importance of
Mm.
examining this from an African centered perspective. And
Of course.
he said he was not at all interested in the program. I'm just going to kind of cut it there, but it was not Dr. Charles Finch. Dr. Charles Finch, as far as I can recall, was absolutely a complete scholar, gentleman, and always open to new ideas from our perspective.
I say that was my direct experience with him as well. My limited but direct experience with Baba Finch, and yeah, he was really at the forefront of dealing with a lot of the science of our ancient ancestors. You mentioned Echoes from the Old Dark Land. You mentioned the Star of Deep Beginnings, and then his most recent book was an update to the African Origins of Medical Science book. And then he has another book too that he came out with last year, which is dealing with a 10,000 year history of ancient Kemet specifically, and just African history in general. So we urge our listeners, our family members, to definitely check out the deep and numerous works of Baba, now ancestor Charles Finch.
I say, and may his memory continue to engage us, bless us, and inspire us for, as you say, 10,000 generations. And praise be his eternal African name. I don't know whether he ever did call himself by a specific African name or not. Were you aware?
Not that I can remember. Possibly, but
Hmm.
not that I can remember, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone who knew him could
Hmm.
ever deny that he gave the whole of Africanness to his great name.
That is very true, and his daughter continues his work. His beloved daughter continues his work. They have done a lot of work together. So definitely, I can't recall her name off the top of my head. Please excuse
Hmm.
me. But if you search on YouTube, or just do an internet search for Dr. Charles Finch, she will definitely come up, as well as his wife Ellen. I believe his wife that's his wife's name, Ellen. As a family, they
Hmm.
are and were a shining example of what can be done when we create these powerful family units to resurrect our people and reclaim our culture.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's give praise to the ancestor for Africa One is in the house. May the honorable ancestor, Dr. Charles Finch, rest in peace, rise in perpetuity, I say,
Hmm.
rise in power, and continue to uplift and teach our global family. Ashe, ashe, ashe. And that's where the books come in. That's where the scholarship takes that next level.
Hmm.
I contend that only when we make our scholarship permanent in the form of edited books, documentary films, and other things like that,
Yes.
that is when we can live in perpetuity.
120%, Baba. The literal ability to teach from beyond the grave, because
Hmm.
after we pass, our books hopefully will still be here in physical form in one way or another, and a young person can pick up that book and can learn something from you even though you are not still here
And
physically.
be very inspired by the example that led to the publication of the book, and thereby say, I am going to continue this pathway.
I mean, we
It,
can just look at all the examples of all the books that you and I have read, that Baba Junius has read by people who are no longer here. George G.M. James, who wrote that wonderful book, Stolen Legacy,
hmm
had died well before I was even thought of, let alone was born.
hmm
And how much
I
we've got
say,
from so many
and
works.
so many books. Now, I know I have read 1,000 books in my life, and I'm sure you have as well, and Baba Junius as well. Let me see if we've got Baba Junius in the house. Let me double check. I don't see him in the house as of yet. Hopefully, he will be joining us here today. Um,
Ashe.
what do we have on the table for discussion that our ancestor, Dr. Charles Finch, would be pleased to hear us talking about today?
Mm, that's a great question. Not a whole lot. Now I've got a lot of articles to pull up today, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it's not looking so good as far as anything that our dear Baba ancestor Charles Finch would be proud of.
Well, let's just say analyzing the world from the eyes of an African centered Pan Africanist, he would definitely be pleased with our mastermind group.
Oh, absolutely, 120%. And just as you said that, I remembered an article. I'm going to have to pull it up real quick in the background. The name of the article is "The World's Oldest Poisoned Arrowheads Date Back to 60,000 Years." Shows that showing hunters' knowledge of toxins, and
Mm-hmm.
this is from the Good News Network. I'm going to pull this up just real quick, because there's something I want to highlight that's very important in this. You know, oftentimes I get dissuaded by the title of some of these articles, but
Mm-hmm.
when I dig a little deeper and I don't judge a book by its cover, so to speak, I find that there is some interesting information in these articles that at first seem a little off-putting. So I'm just pulling this up right here. This is
Mm-hmm.
talking about poison that is found from something called just pulling it up here. It's some sort of a like a wild onion that
Mm-hmm.
that they extract poison from in Azania, South Africa. And
Mm-hmm.
this arrowhead is 60,000 years old. So I was reading through some of this, and then it dawned on me that really what this shows is and this is a quote here, it's also fascinating that people, African people, had such
Mm-hmm.
deep and long-standing a deep and long-standing understanding of the use of plants.
Mm-hmm.
So the article talks about this organic toxin that was used for arrowheads and used in hunting. But in reality, it's really the knowledge of plants. It's really the spiritual connection to nature that I want to highlight in this article. Um, because it's more than just toxins. It's medicine. It's
Mm-hmm.
that connection to Mama Earth. It's that connection to nature. It's knowing what we have. The deeper thought here is knowing what we have right under our feet that we can use to benefit our situation today. That is the deeper
Mm-hmm.
that I pulled out of this article, and I think
I
Dr. Finch would be proud.
I completely agree. And I think that's very relevant. The knowledge of the herbs and things. I did write about much of this in my book, which reminds me of Dr. Finch's work also. And when I talked about the African origins of Greek and Greco-Roman medicine,
Ashe.
in my book, Standard Omission, they always seem to omit our beginning of this old medical science when they get to talking about Greek accomplishments. Hey, nothing to say. I have nothing to say ill about Greek medical accomplishments, because the Greeks deified and created a god called Asclepius, which was dedicated to Imhotep. So, enough respect. The Greeks went to school in the Nile Delta, to the university there, where the Greeks also had arranged to have the largest medical university it was arranged in the Nile Delta. They gathered as many documents as they could from everywhere, from India, from Persia, from Africa, across wherever they could be found, and they gathered them in the Nile Delta. Unfortunately, the Romans sacked the libraries 3 times and burned them 3 times. And so there was a Roman destruction of everything ancient that we decry, but the Greeks we can definitely appreciate, Hippocrates, etc. And we just want to make sure that our contributions to history and civilization are not only acknowledged by all other groups, but we make sure that they got to get to our own young people, who are the inheritors of everything that we do and everything that we have done and everything we need to project ourselves forward for future generations.
Ashe. I couldn't agree with you more, Baba. Ashe.
Today is tomorrow, I should say, is the national celebration for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm.
And we do appreciate that. His actual birth anniversary was on the 15th of January. Tomorrow is the national celebration. And we do celebrate him and the Nobel Prize, which has become tainted with the smell of Donald Trump.
Mm.
I don't have anything good to say about Donald Trump today, but I am going to talk about Donald Trump quite a bit.
Okay.
The smell of his tainting of the Nobel Prize, which the non-prime minister or non-president of Venezuela, who had been removed from the country, had removed herself from the country and was in exile in the United States. She won the Nobel Peace Prize recently for quote, for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. Now, a whole lot of that statement I do not necessarily agree with, but she did win Nobel Prize for a lifetime of activity. But she screwed it all up when she just donated that prize or shared the prize with Donald Trump. The Nobel Laureate Committee did not acknowledge the transfer of that prize. They said you cannot transfer a peace prize, etc. And they completely ignore Donald Trump's almost demands that they give him a peace prize, or else I guess he's going to put sanctions on him.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
No, I a lot to say. Go ahead. You got the floor.
I think it is very indicative of the character, the state of affairs, the reality that that these players that be are in that war is championed as peace.
That's right. That Trump, he has claimed, and you know he lies, right?
Oh, yeah.
He has claimed to have resolved 8 wars. Well, when we look at those 8 wars that he's claimed to resolve, He repeated linked his claim to deserving a Nobel Peace Prize to a set of conflicts he said he, quote, ended or, quote, resolved, though many of them were not formally recognized as wars or remained unresolved and heavily disputed in terms of U.S. role. They include, he makes his statement and he just accepted using that line when accepting Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado's Nobel Peace Prize medal and tying it explicitly to why nobody, quote, nobody deserves this prize more, unquote, than he does. Well,
Wow.
one of his wars is ceasefire to Middle East and Gaza. Have you been following Gaza since the 20-point peace plan was put into place? Well over 400 Palestinians have been slaughtered by their Israeli torturers since the, quote, peace was declared. India and Kashmir. Trump has claimed he brokered a full and immediate ceasefire between India and Pakistan after a brief bout of hostilities over Kashmir, although they say that any notion that he, quote, ended the conflict is absolute nonsense. They say they were already engaged in talks to relieve the conflict between them because they're both nuclear armed states and they do not want to escalate that any further.
Right.
India and Pakistan. He also claimed to, that's the one I just read. Indian officials have rejected the notion that the U.S. mediated the ceasefire, that any talks were bilateral, and denying that Trump, quote, ended the conflict, which shows how bizarre his claim is. Armenia and Azerbaijan. He counts a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, although the the conflict has been going on for many years. It's had numerous ceasefires. Serbia and Kosovo, Korea, North Korea, South Korea. There's no peace there permanently.
Nope.
Nope. And overall, Trump's central narrative is that he, quote, ended or resolved 7 and later 8 conflicts in under a year. Yet others have said Yemen, Trump bombs Yemen during his time. Somalia.
Yeah.
Trump bombs Somalia during his term with well over 100 bombings of Somalia.
Yes.
More than under Bush, Obama, and Biden combined, and killing civilians along with militants. Iraq, 2025. Syria, late 2025. U.S. strikes on Iran-linked militias and other targets in response to U.S. attacks on U.S. personnel. Iran, the missile and air attacks on Iran's so-called nuclear infrastructure. And Nigeria, airstrikes against jihadist groups. And Venezuela, now recently capturing the Venezuelan leader, invading Venezuela, and killing dozens and dozens and dozens of militia and civilians there. So,
and then threatening to take over or to bomb Mexico, Colombia, Cuba, and Greenland.
And the biggest threat to America is Greenland. Let alone attempting or threatening to deploy National Guard all across the United States by declaring the U.S. is an insurrection. There is an insurrection going on. Trump's National Guard deployments in Los Angeles, Chicago, Memphis, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., and threatening other cities such as Charlotte, St. Louis, Baltimore, and Oakland, and San Francisco.
And the state of Maine.
And the state of Maine. One might say truck thump.
Truck thump. That sounds like a bumper sticker or a t-shirt.
I know Queen Mother does not like it when I talk like this, but this guy is out of his mind. He's a lunatic. America elected this guy. He's the president of the United States, legally so. They elected a convicted felon, and he has been pardoning convicted felons and international drug smugglers. Chickens do come home to roost.
Ashe. And as you have long said as well, Baba, which is a very timely and pertinent statement, the inmates have taken over the asylum.
That's right. And
Now,
believe it or not, we are joined right now by your brother, our brother, Baba Junius is in the house.
all right.
Aquaba, he's just hooking up his microphone. Welcome, Baba Junius. I hope you are in good spirits today.
I am Madasi. I sent you an email. Told you I was on the phone with taking an important call, so I was only a few minutes late.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thank you
Great
for
to see you,
sending
Baba.
us that message.
Hey, bro,
And
how you doing?
great to have you with us. You have missed for the last 10 or 12 minutes, brother and I have been throwing a tirade over Donald Trump's cumulative behavior, especially declaring himself to be the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Well, he already said. Somebody asked him a question: were there limits to what he was going to do and what he could do? He said no. It's only in his mind, and only with his morals. So you know what's happening, and we had predicted because of that whole dark enlightenment piece, where they want to move toward quasi monarchy or autocratic leadership. This is what's going to happen. I mean, this guy is he's off the chain, man.
Mm-hmm. And it's like insanity. The inmates have taken over the asylum.
Well, it's always been like that. I mean, we just tomorrow they're going to do this whole thing of day of service thing, which I think is a travesty and basically a rejection or I can't even think of the word of Martin Luther King, what he was about. But look at how off the chain they were in the 60s with killing Patrice Lumumba, killing Kennedy, killing Malcolm, killing King, killing Robert Kennedy, COINTELPRO, Operation Chaos, all those things that the Church Report brought out in the 70s, the abuses of power, the illegality of what they're doing. And the interesting thing is nowadays, a lot of stuff they did back then that was illegal is illegal now because of the of 9/11 and the NDAA and the Patriot Act and all those other legislative moves that they made to legitimize their insanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Truck Thump. That's a new T-shirt design.
Yeah, I might even amend it to Truck Frump. Yeah, he's a frumpy thing, you know?
That's right. That's right. So
or even because you could really do a play on his real name. His name was Drumpf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Truck Drumpf.
Let me just kind of leave it alone because I have this foulness circulating in my brain right now. That's one of the reasons I don't cuss, because I don't like that mess inside my head. There are a few other people. Let's acknowledge. Welcome, Brother Eddie McCrory is in the house. Always great to have you, Brother Eddie McCrory. What a joy it is to have you in the house. Queen Mother Kashiba has joined us. And also for Africa One says, why does Caligula pop into my mind when I hear Trump's name mentioned? Caligula.
There's some people in the alt media who are calling him that.
That's right.
he's the new emperor. The
Mm.
American. I mean, what we're seeing now is the facade is coming off of the American Empire. They just don't even care anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
the sad part about it is it's being cheered on, and it's very much like what happened in the 30s in Nazi Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler came in, he had a populist, quote unquote, message. It was almost, you could say, he was saying, make Germany great again, you know.
Yeah, he
And,
did say that.
well, I mean, yeah, he would say, we're going to turn this around, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And unfortunately, I'm coming to realize that this country has been so dumbed down that the masses are just comatose, and they just don't see stuff, even it's right in their face, and they don't see it because to acknowledge it means you have to do something about it, and they're not prepared to do anything about it.
That's right.
So it's going to get worse. Trust me.
It is the movie Idiocracy come to life. And we talk about that movie quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
It is at the point, to your point, Baba Junius, you always remind us of this word stupor, to be in a stupor. And I believe that word is also related to stupid and stupidity.
Right.
In that you can't even bring up a fact to some people without them just completely shutting down in their cognitive dissonance, in their Stockholm syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And the brainwashing is real. The brainwashing is very real.
But see, now we've spoken for the last several weeks about the impact of a lot of these drugs, the pharmaceuticals, on the brain, the impact of social media on the brain in terms of the responses and the hormones and dopamine and this, that, the other. And also, there are conversations about the brain fog from the COVID vaccine. So all of this is a culmination. What we're seeing is a culmination of all of this. That's why people are so out of it.
And
that's right.
Without getting too conspiratorial, because I do not have proof of this, so this is just a theory. Could one of the stated end goals of MK Ultra, of Project Monarch, have been to create a division amongst human beings such that one's brains don't work, one group's brains don't work and atrophy, especially the medial prefrontal cortex, executive reasoning function of the brain, which is something you've talked about before in the past, Baba Kitty, and then the other side being that the medial prefrontal cortex is still intact.
Mm-hmm. In my book, Living Superfood Longevity, I actually opened with the very theses that you just laid out, is that we are witnessing a split of the human genome into two divergent pathways. One continues evolution while the other is devolving, de-evolution. And the devolution is a consequence of ongoing poisoning of our minds, our neuroplasticity, etc. And this ongoing poisoning is so widely accepted that people are dumbing down. And they're dumbing down at a phenomenal rate. I encourage people to read that book, Living Superfood Longevity. The first paragraph is, are we witnessing the split of the evolutionary split of the human race? I just want to acknowledge a couple of comments in the email. Queen Mother, we are not going to ignore you. She does want us to talk about the trip and tour of Africa by this online influencer called I Show Speed. And she has mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about it. I don't want to talk about that right now because we're kind of in a deep thread right now. When we change that direction, we're going to have to acknowledge. But this split that you're talking about is really happening, and it is so very deep. And it is part of the reason why we, who will be Pan African activists moving towards a new destiny for Africa, why we are so incredibly frustrated
Mm.
because we cannot seem to gather enough mass and enough momentum to be able to turn this thing around to where the last will be first and the first will be last.
It was part of the brain fog, all the things that you're talking about. One of the symptoms of that is lethargy, apathy, a sort of disconcertedness about your surroundings, about your life, which results in this maladaptive responses to life. So you got the substance abuse, suicide. It's a known fact that most Americans are saying that they've experienced some type of depression or mental illness or dis-ease in the past 5 years. So it's right there, yet there are very few solutions being promoted. And the solutions that are being promoted, people don't want to do. That just last week or this week, a study came out. 2 weeks ago, there was a study coming out saying don't expose infant toddlers below 2 to social media.
Mm-hmm.
This week, they're saying that adolescents shouldn't be exposed to it because of the damages that it causes.
Right.
So the covers are coming off, and people are they're addicted to this. They're addicted to the gizmos and the gadgets. And that, along with the echo side, the poisoning of their food, the MK Ultra type brainwashing and mind control, because that was their goal. Remember, these are the Nazis that they brought over here. They were trying to replicate some of the stuff that the Nazis were doing.
Right.
So they finally got to the point, they finally have the technology. They finally have control of the quote unquote science to allow them to do what they want to do, which is call the population. It's just their problem with us is that they're not able to kill us quickly enough. So they want to reduce us to dysfunctional or non-functional entities that they can easily manipulate, or they can program that we will self-destruct. And that's what
That's right. It's so true, Baba Junius. And what you just spoke about reminded me of that passage from Gunnar Myrdal's 1944 tome, An American Dilemma, The Negro Problem and Modern Democracy. And on page 167, they said, just paraphrase, make it real quick, if we forget about the means for the moment and consider only the quantitative goal, there is no doubt that the overwhelming majority of white Americans desire that there be as few Negroes in America. If the Negroes could be killed off or wiped out or exported, this would meet the whites' approval, provided they also approve how to do it. And then 3 pages later, on page 170, they laid out the plan to do it, and it would be by limiting our fertility and crowding us out or pushing us out of America's fertility trend, which has kept America very powerful compared to other European-centered countries. I'm not going to go into that right now. It is in the book, and most of us who do claim to have read that passage and read the book, really have not necessarily spent time reading that passage and reading the book. So therefore, we cannot escape from a prison that we don't even know we're in.
Mm, 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 mm. And I would argue that that sentiment amongst the general Eurasian population has not changed.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The thing is, they've also bought into, and when you listen to these politicians, and you listen particularly the Eurasian women, how they just went ballistic about the Supreme Court ruling against Roe v. Wade, they adopted that whole process of depopulation. And now they're wondering, or they're worried, and they have angst that their birth rates are in decline.
Right. You can't have it both ways, Robert Junius.
Right.
But
The demographers are saying what you're saying, that they realize they're going to lose in the long run without these children, but at the same time, they don't want to individually bear responsibility for bringing life into this society.
that shows the mental decline where they can't process this information. They can't adjust to reality, and they're continuing to pursue behaviors and policies that are wiping themselves out. They think that stopping immigrants from coming in is going to make them safe. They think that, okay, not having these people in our midst who are very fertile and who have vitality and vigor and can reproduce on a larger scale than they do is going to save them. It's not.
Our ancestors summed it up perfectly when they said one cannot feast and become wealthy. One cannot both feast and become wealthy. You can't open up the floodgates of abortion and be complaining that you need to make more babies.
Well, I'm going to defend the childless woman on just one aspect, just one, that the corporations have so capitalized in on how they can make money off of all aspects of life that they have made childbearing largely unaffordable for many, many people across society. It was in previous generations, it's been going on for a while. It was mostly the poorer women who bore more children, and it was the richer women who bore less children, and that balanced out. But unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. Eddie did ask a question. He said, why did they presume Negroes would cause them a problem? The American dilemma, the Negro problem in modern democracy. It began around 1937, 7 years before Gunnar Myrdal's book is published, when demographers in the United States came to the conclusion that after the 1924 National Immigration Act restricted the unchecked flow of Europeans into America from Europe, they concluded that basically whoever was in the country, their fertility rates would determine the future. And by 1937, I see the first studies, I've collected them. I see the first studies that project that America's demographic trend would have Africans becoming the majority of the U.S. population sometime in the middle of the 21st century. That's where we are right now. So they began that plan immediately to stop us from doing that. Margaret Sanger's The Negro Project, a whole bunch of propaganda is produced over the course of the next few generations. And up until Roe v. Wade, we had largely the momentum of fertility in the United States. For 3 years after Roe v. Wade becomes the new standard in America where abortion is allowed, for 3 years, black people in America didn't participate in it. In fact, black quote unquote national leadership spoke out against it, saying it was a trick.
Plot. It was a plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Then Jesse Jackson runs for president. And the liberal position, now Africans take the liberal position on Roe v. Wade and change sides, saying that abortion now belongs to African American women. Woo!
Mm.
But
I'm a
I
little
mean,
passionate here.
yeah, but I maintain that that sentiment and that consciousness goes back to the 19th century, goes
Mm,
back to, think about this now, the American Colonization Society,
that's right.
1816, 1817, where they're saying we have to do something about the population of Africans.
Right.
And even, and this is at the height of enslavement and where they needed free labor. So the issue is they wanted to get rid of us. I don't know whether or not they had come to the conclusion that indentured servitude and white bondage was the solution, because it turned out not to be. But that at that point they were saying, "Now we got to get rid of these people." And by the way, Abraham Lincoln was a member of the
Yes.
American
That's right.
Colonization Society.
Mm-hmm.
On page 170, just a few sentences, I'm going to quote exactly what you're talking about, Baba Junius. It says here, the Negroes cannot be killed off. Compulsory deportation would infringe upon the personal liberty in such a radical fashion that it is excluded. Voluntary exportation of Negroes could not be carried out extensively because of unwillingness on the part of recipient nations as well as on the part of the American Negroes themselves, who usually do not want to leave the country but prefer to stay and fight it out here. I'm just going to cut it short right there. I hope you all have heard me read that passage at least a dozen times across these years on LIBRadio.
I'll say.
Well, I think that you should read it periodically, because it then gives a framework and a context for what we're seeing, and we see how the policies have been designed to address these very issues. Because most of us are not familiar with these national security memorandums.
Mm-hmm.
Come out and say essentially the same thing, but on a global scale. And
That's right.
part of the disconnect is, despite our history, despite our experiences, we're still reluctant to see Urugu as the demon that they are. And I'm not whitewashing everybody, because when you look at Urugu and you study European history, the tactics and techniques that they use against us, they used against their own people first.
That's right. We got a lot of work to do. And Queen Mother Kashiba did have a comment earlier. She said, talk about the trip and tour of Africa by I Show Speed. I have mixed feelings about him and his tour. My 13-year-old grandson is a big fan. He is 20-year-old millionaire with 40 million subscribers. Now, I Show Speed, if you're not familiar with him, he is a YouTuber influencer, and he is very fast individual, and he competes against anyone who will race him, and he has now been touring Africa for the last month or so, and Africans themselves have mixed feelings about him. On one hand, he is showcasing a side of Africa that very rarely is a U.S. citizen, especially our young people, exposed to, and that's got to be a good thing. Yet at the same time, if we have to rely on I Show Speed to replace Dr. Charles Finch, who, Baba Junius, you may have missed that part of the program today, but we did announce the passing, the transition of Dr. Charles Finch, Dr. Asa Hilliard, and Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and so many other people who tell our story more effectively, efficiently, MK, Asante, etc. If I show speed is to replace them, then it's very, very risky.
What give us some background on him, his backstory. I know just from what you're saying and what I just looked up, he's an influencer on YouTube.
Hmm.
But what's his backstory? Has anybody delved into him? And the reason I'm saying that is because we get these PR type narratives. For example, the narrative of the guy Charlie Kirk is really not
Hmm.
true. It's really not. He's not that person, or wasn't
Hmm.
that person. So what's his name is Darren Jason Watkins. So what's his story?
He is a wonderful YouTube marketer. He has picked a niche where he challenges famous people and not famous people to a foot race, and he's very, very good at it. He's very fast, and he he challenged Noah Lyles to a foot race. Noah Lyles kind of beat him and was kind of laughing at him as he was racing against him. No one is going to beat Noah Lyles, the fastest man in the world, but I Show Speed was bold enough to challenge him. So, on one hand, I give him full credit for wonderful marketing, and he has marketed this trip across Africa. He went to Nile Valley, to Kenya, and I know he went to South Africa, etc. And lots of young people are going on that trip with him. Personally, I prefer Wode Maya, who's a young person bringing other young people to Africa. And I'm going to give I Show Speed full credit for doing what he's doing. I think it is a brilliant marketing trip that will be good for Africans. Could we do better? I think we could do better, but we don't have 40 million subscribers. I don't have but 400 subscribers on my YouTube channel.
My only pushback, and this is just my personal opinion, having taken students to the continent of Africa several times, is that there needs to be a very deep cultural and educational component that should be mandatory for all those of us that travel to the continent, because nothing cringes me more than that not happening, and then going over there and trying to teach these young, bright-eyed African brothers and sisters about the N-word, or about trap music, or drill, or trill, or about Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion. That is what we're trying to avoid. And our people are so open and hospitable and friendly and craving that reconnection with us as lost family members that have finally come home, that too many of them, especially the young ones on the continent, are ready to embrace all of that. And that is something we have to combat.
Well, you're muted. Keely, you're
I
muted.
was getting, yeah, I was getting a signal in my ear that my battery was low, and I need to charge my battery on my headset. So I'll figure that out here in just a little bit, or maybe it'll hold out. Um, but and but we're gonna have to figure something out. Queen Mother Kashiba says, "Could I show speed?" No, she said he's a goofball. And where was this statement? I missed it. She says he is a goofball for children and immature adults. But the thing is, we need a reason, or we need somebody capable of reaching our children and reaching our immature adults. And if I Show Speed is now interested in the African mother continent, I'm not going to tell him no.
Right. What about the notion of reconciliation? That's part of Ma'at or Ubuntu, where you see someone who has taken the initiative, who has ambition, who has, as the old folks used to say, gumption and grit. I don't think it's a good thing to beat them down and browbeat them
Mhm.
unless they prove that they're recalcitrant.
Mhm.
The question is, how do we approach someone like that, or how do elders approach him
Exactly.
and give him some advice,
Exactly.
direction, and support so that his efforts don't prove counterproductive to what we need?
I
Yeah,
wholeheartedly agree with you. Yeah.
I agree completely, Baba Junius. That is the key question. How do we support him? We're going to have to find some people to be bridges. We can here, of the three of us in the mastermind, we could serve as bridges between him and this greater mission, but we don't have a means of influencing him to influence the much larger majority of our youth, of our children and immature adults.
And that's what I say is part of the challenge is that, and again, I don't want to blame everything on social media, yet um, it does create uh, these divisions in such that it's like, okay, I have got this many followers, I make this much amount of money, my account is monetized out the wazoo.
Hmm.
Why should I listen to you, elder? Why should I listen to
That's
you?
right. I agree. Why should he listen to us? Only one reason, because listening to us gives him a basis for strengthening his own ability to make money and reach these youth. That's the only reason he should listen to you and I.
I agree.
Now I've got this thing yelling in my ear. I'm gonna have to switch off of here for somehow, some reason. I'm gonna have to switch over and I'm gonna mute myself and see if I can get this done.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's gonna
Well,
take me a few minutes.
all right. Well, we won't allow any dead air.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
But
hold.
Dewar mentioned the need, his experience of taking young people to Africa. I have similar experiences with the African Genesis with
Mhm.
and we used to be called the Dessert Club, then evolved to African Genesis
Right.
with Ali, Helen, and Ali. And their program started at 14. It was a 2 year, they worked and they were educated, they were exposed to different leaders,
Mhm.
people like Tony Browder, Wayne Chandler, Dr. Ed Robinson was a key uh, figure there in part and parcel of African Genesis.
Okay.
They went to Dr. Lomax, who purchased the plantation his family was enslaved on. He
Mm.
took trips following along the Underground Railroad, went to the Black Wax Museum in
Baltimore.
Baltimore,
Yep.
went to Detroit, up
Mhm.
into, in addition to seeing Motown, they followed across the river into Canada, the Underground Railroad. So they had all those experiences, and they also had the experience of raising money for their trip, getting support for their trip,
Mhm.
because they didn't have any out-of-pocket expenses for the trip.
Mhm.
And when I was going, the 3 years I went, the goal was to connect Kemet with Ghana, but at that time there was no carrier
Mm.
on the continent that had direct flights from Ghana, from Cairo to,
To Accra.
yeah. So that we never we weren't able to pull that off. But you're right. It has to be an ongoing process. It has to be educational. You
Mhm.
have to have parental support.
Right.
And the thing that we didn't have, and the things that these rites of passages don't have, as great as they are, is community reinforcement, where those shared values that are part of the rites of passage are shared and exhibited and modeled throughout the community. We don't have that. That's why it's so difficult to, to, to for them to latch on and to get traction.
Yeah, I agree. I know that ancestor Baba Ranoko Rashidi did a Ghana Kemet tour. So you'd presumably start in Accra and do Ghana, and then you would fly to Kemet and see the wonders of the Kemetic world, so to speak. But I always thought that was pretty profound. I never went on that specific tour with him, but I love the idea of bridging East and West Africa. That's powerful. And I believe that the first time I was in Kemet, I believe that I interfaced with the Dessert Club because, or you said that it was called the Genesis.
Yeah, African Genesis.
African Genesis. Because one year they had a Nubian conference there, and I believe that that African Genesis was a part of that. There was a big conference in the hotel. A lot of young people, a lot of young people from our community in the U.S.
Yeah, the thing about it, they had chapters. It wasn't just out of Philly. They had chapters in maybe as many as, I want to say, close to 20 other cities.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, is that still ongoing?
Ali made transition during the scamdemic. Helen does other things locally, but they haven't replicated the type of program that they had prior to his transition.
Yeah, we've got to figure out how to make these things sustainable and how to institutionalize them. Not knocking them at all. I mean, that in and of itself is a huge contribution. And as you were detailing the travels and the trips that were taken by African Genesis, formerly the Dessert Club, I couldn't help but smile very wide, Baba Junius, because that is really that type of cultural and immersive experience and that foundation given to our children, that is it's invaluable. It's invaluable.
Right. There was another program that was much smaller. It was Reggie and Gwen Walker. I forgot. I think it was Journeys. It was called Journeys something. They did the same thing, but they had a much smaller group. It was more intense. They blended it with entrepreneurship, where the young people had to figure out ways to fund their trip.
Wow. Okay.
And they had to cultivate sponsors, patrons, and of course it was an ongoing educational piece with that. And so those were great activities or great programs, but again, the shortcoming on our society is that we did not embrace that.
6, 7.
You're on. We did not embrace that and reinforce
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, your check is good. You're good.
You
can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And it is with great sadness that I say that our children are being ripped away from those types of immersive experiences because, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, because we are now viewing our lives through a 2-inch screen. And that is the devices, the gadgets, the gizmos, like you mentioned. And I contend, although this does sound like a conspiracy, I do contend, and you remind us, Baba Junius, that their playbook is very thin. And if that is the fact of the matter, then one of the main aspects, as we've mentioned so many times before, in their playbook is the removal of the children from the elders, the removal of the children from their parents, such that they are siphoned off into another channel that then takes over and leads them astray from our traditional pathways and worldview and cultural consciousness.
If you look at what the Europeans did on this continent, whether it was in Canada or the United States, when they dealt with the indigenous,
Yes.
in addition to the genocide, those they didn't kill, they did exactly what you just said. They snatched them away, sent them to boarding school. They cut their hair, prohibited them from speaking their indigenous languages, and did everything they could to brainwash them into integration and assimilation. And unfortunately, African people at Hampton Institute collaborated with them because they had a school there that conducted that process there on the campus of Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University. So you can see just how insidious Urugu is.
Mm-hmm.
How I see there was something in the chat which says something about, do Europeans value life? The answer is no. All you have to do is look at their history.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on right now.
Right.
Yeah. There a couple of comments I want to share. Queen Mother Kasiba, I sent 2 videos to you and Brother Junius I show speed. He's a millionaire, a 20-year-old millionaire. I didn't see the videos, otherwise I would comment and to you back. King Jason is in the house.
No, wait, I just want to comment on it. She's so prolific. Sometimes I get 2, maybe 3 things from her a day. So I don't have, it takes a while to get, so I just haven't gotten around to that one.
Yeah.
So I'll read something or watch something, and sometime I'll get back to her. I just haven't gotten around to that.
All right. And I agree. I mean, I do pay attention because she doesn't send me junk. There was a while when I was getting a lot of fake videos about Africa, but I think those are pretty much filtered out by now. And King Jason's in the house, aka the Snob Hall. He says, unfortunately, it is the least educated people and dummies that are in control of the domain of discourse. Yeah, we discussed that quite a bit earlier when we were focusing on Donald Trump and his pursuit of Nobel Peace Prize. And he said, Gus is in the house. He said, there was a program called Operation Crossroads Africa. I participated in it, as well as some notable participants such as Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And for those who are unfamiliar, Operation Crossroads Africa was a pioneering volunteer program founded in 1958 by Presbyterian minister Dr. James Robinson. And it sent young Africans, including both black and white participants, to work on grassroots development projects across Africa, fostering cross-cultural understanding. And Dr. Robinson launched OCA, the Operation Crossroads Africa, in Africa, aiming to build bridges of friendship through elaborate collaboration with Africans on initiatives like building schools, clinics, and infrastructure. And let me tell you, I was thinking of Dr. Edward Robinson, who was a giant, an absolute giant among we who love Africa. He was another, and his brother Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
They were very instrumental at bringing a lot of us much further, much faster into Pan-African ideology. Praise be Dr. Edward Robinson's eternal name. Another comment, King Jason in the house, he says, their playbook is thin, but they have one. We don't. We need a collaborative effort of qualified elders to rewrite blueprint for Black Power and expound on his older concepts, but also go deeper. And King Jason, I think he hit that smack on the head.
I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
It gets back to what we talk about is game theory.
Game theory. That's right. And now with the implementation of of artificial intelligence, which I have changed that to ancestral intelligence or ancestral inheritance, AI, we can use AI to go into the blueprint for Black Power from Dr. Amos Wilson and make it practical, make it extremely practical. I could do so by the end of this program, working in the background, come up with an incredible, detailed blueprint to empower us with the resources we already have. The problem is, the outsiders, can use that same AI to do that plan themselves and then draw themselves into it where ultimately they end up winning.
Well, their playbook has been well thought out. The reason they continue using those tactics and methods is because they have proven over time for centuries and even millennia to work. And so the Ma'afa is more devastating than we really grasp. Yeah, we say, oh, well, we don't have our names, we don't have this, we don't have that. No, they destroyed the foundation. They destroyed, or they attempted to destroy Ubuntu. They attempted to destroy Ma'at, which are cosmic and divine programs and methods and means to uplift and elevate a people. So they destroyed that. They destroyed our technology. They destroyed our connection to nature, because now we embrace all this AI, this negative AI. We embrace what are they called? The GMOs. We embrace all of that because we want to be in. We want to be accepted. We want to be part of what's going on. And they have co-opted a lot of our leaders so that, they get the old with them, what's in it for me? So they're not necessarily the race men and women that we had 200 years ago, 100 something years ago. So again, this is not an excuse. We're not whining, it's just sharing what the obstacles we face and just how deeply and ubiquitous their evil is. And it's not to say, well, just give up. No, you need to be aware of what's going on.
And we need to not only be aware, but we need to come up with a program, a consistent, strong, group-centered program. Now, I'm looking at the chat. I see King Jason is in the house. He said, if we don't watch ourselves, we will have a community of Candace Owens and Anton Danielses. Now, I'm unfamiliar with Anton Daniels, but I did notice when I just looked him up, I have seen his videos. He focuses, his YouTube channel focuses on, quote, self-reliance, entrepreneurship, and rejecting victimhood narratives within Black communities, often critiquing reliance on government aid or systemic racism excuses. That's where I'm at too, King Jason. I think we should be very critical of our own selves. We have enough stuff to be winners. We have enough stuff to compete against other groups, but we got these systemic racism excuses that are automatically evoked whenever we are challenged to back up making progress.
Well, I think one of the things is that, and this may seem like a cliche, is because we don't know our history. We don't know the struggles. So oftentimes we end up attempting to reinvent the wheel, when if we knew what happened, say, to the Exodusters, or we knew what happened after Black Wall Street, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine area, the district was rebuilt, successfully rebuilt, then we could see, okay, this is a strategy. That urban removal is a strategy. That's what they use, and they use it in rural towns. They use it in cities. They use it in megapolises. So we need to be aware of that. Does that mean that we don't try to have some land that we can use to cultivate and grow and sustain ourselves? No. Just be aware that that is a tactic that they use. It's not coincidental that the Nation of Islam, the New Republic of Africa, the brother from Detroit who had the Black Nationalist Church.
Yeah, that was the Church of the Black Madonna.
Yeah. Shrine of the Black Madonna.
Shrine of the Black Madonna, right.
All of them focus on acquisition of land to be self-sufficient.
And they were also conservative in their values, that we would conserve our assets and resources as well.
Right. But I think we have to clearly define conservatism, because a lot of Black conservatives are patriotic to the extent they're blinded by the atrocities and viciousness of the American empire.
That's right. And the so-called conservatives, Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and Elijah Muhammad, were all conservatives. And Booker T. Washington too.
Exactly. And so you would have to, I can't think of his African name, the brother who founded the Shrine of Black Madonna, you would have to say he was conservative too, using African Christian principle to set up his nation or his group, his organization. We tend to think that because you're about order, divine order, ma'at, is one form of conservatism. It's what we did. It's the Sankofa. It's the looking to our ancestors and looking to our elders. That's conservatism. The stuff that is put out there today in terms of American geopolitics, that's not what we're talking about.
No, that's not. And that's Reverend Clegg's church. Queen Mother Kashiba put that in, Reverend Clegg. But he did have an African name, which we would choose to elevate as well. But we do appreciate Reverend Clegg for all his visionary work and convincing so many people to act upon his vision. We give praise to his eternal name.
Ashe.
So we are at a crossroads, and we're gonna have to make some serious decisions and make them as soon as possible. Is this ship that Africans in America or Africans across the diaspora, is this ship that we're in, and we can say Africans on the planet, is this ship too big, too damaged to change directions without divine intervention? Maybe God will come in and, captain the ship and steer us to a port where we can empower ourselves.
You said ship, right? Ship.
Yes.
But the thing is, when you said that, I thought about and shine swam on. The thing is, most of the people on the ship don't know how damaged it is. They think, well, there's just some minor problems, we can adjust. They don't realize that the Western influence, the Western Eurocentric system is unsustainable and it's about to crash. Even though there are all kinds of people doing things to try to keep it alive, we're like Shine, we're on the ship. And he was smart enough to recognize, this joint ain't not happening. I'm out of here. So we have to make an assessment and then say, this is of an existential level. This is a type of thing that means life or death for us or to us, and then act accordingly.
Personally, I would argue that the psyop is that the ship is damaged, and we're celebrating the damages. Oh, there's a hole in the side of the boat. Well, that means I just don't have to drop the bucket down to get water off the side anymore. So maybe the hole is a good thing, they tell us. The sail is ripped. Well, I didn't want to go anywhere anyways. I like it right here. I don't want to move. And so I think, something ancestor Kamal Kamban said, which was very prolific, was that it's not enough for us to be committing slow and subtle suicide. They're going to make money off. And that is part of the reality is getting the psyop is getting us to buy into our own suicide.
Mm-hmm. Good point that you make.
But you know
And
what? It's almost by default. It's not even
Right.
we're so lethargic that it's not even where it's a conscious decision. It's people just going along with the program.
Going along with the program. Yeah.
why are we so lethargic that we're admitting to being so lethargic?
Personally, I would say off the top of my head, popcorn brain rot. If you want to be more technical, overstimulation of the medial prefrontal cortex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All humans are, and you have to take this and look at it from an African perspective. All humans are hierarchical in terms of leadership,
Mm-hmm.
the value that they place on their leaders. It tended to be the elders, and from that evolved chiefs, kings, et cetera, but they also had balance in terms of how that was set up. The question is, if that's the case, where are our leaders? Who are our leaders? What type of qualifications do they have to be leaders? Who are we following? What are their values? What are their goals and aspirations other than making themselves rich or being seen as influencers or leaders in the public eye? So until we address, and then it gets back to like what you said numerous times about our identity. Who are we? From a perspective of, are we just flesh and blood? Have we gotten into the deepness of the fact that we're spiritual beings, energetic beings? And all of these things are deep questions, and I've been saying this for 20 some years, from the Falcon Forum to now. There is an anti-intellectual bent in our community. And until that is addressed, we're going to be in deep trouble.
I agree.
Well, we are going to remain in deep trouble. I don't know of any deeper trouble than what we are already in. I do see a comment from Brother Juma has joined our conversation. He said, without systems that educate, feed, and can house the people, how can there be hope? It's going to take a tremendous act of personal will to, quote unquote, keep hope alive. And I'm not talking about this jargon, keep hope alive as a slogan. I'm talking about really keeping hope alive. If you and I, as the would-be proponents of the solutions, ourselves cannot keep hope alive in our own lives, our own minds, then there is very little chance that we'll be able to convince the larger group of people to do it. Brother Juma, I am the example of keeping that hope alive, because ultimately, for me, the best solution is immediately ahead. I'm going home. I'm going home to Africa. And I have a good plan for it. And I've already begun operating this plan and developing the details of this plan. And not only going home, but I intend to be extremely influential when I get there.
You
Now,
know,
I'm not a millionaire. I have
not
a
yet.
brother who's a millionaire. I am not a millionaire, but I
Not
have,
yet.
when it comes to my knowledge and wisdom, yeah, I'm not saying I'm excluding that, but I have knowledge and wisdom that billionaires do not have.
Mm.
And I
And
intend to on going home to Africa and applying it wherever it is needed. You were saying, Baba, or Brother Dwara?
Ashe, sorry that I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I believe that LIB is the lifeboat. I'm a
It's
product of 20 years of listening to LIB. The only reason I'm where I'm at mentally, physically, spiritually, holistically is because of LIB. And there were others. I don't want to, I got to give credit to others as well. Rainbow Soul, LIBRadio, Baba Junius. I used to listen to your interviews when I was in my 20s, and read the books and all that stuff. But the reality is that there is Isfetian stimuli and there is Ma'atian stimuli. I call it the healing drum and the harming drum. Which drum are we listening to? For me personally, overdosing on the healing drum or the Ma'atian stimuli is one of the paths that we can take to healing ourselves and giving ourselves the necessary holistic medicine needed for what I would call radical cultural reclamation.
mm-hmm. Awesome. I do see a couple of comments. I want to just catch up real quick. Eddie McCrory is in the house. Many say God is consciousness. Right now, the consciousness of people has become corrupted so badly and continues to be with this smart stuff. It would be very hard for the God to use and to prevail. And that's real, real deep. And King Jason is in the house. We've got to stop this new gap being created between us and Africa and the rest of the diaspora. That relationship moving forward is our biggest asset. And I completely agree. And King Jason agrees with you, Brother Dewara. He says, I concur. LIB, 7 Mac University got me light years ahead. And I thank you, King Jason, for that comment. That does mean a whole lot to me as the one who put these ideas together. And the new ideas I'm working on, I just put up 3 videos. I think I put them up. I put up one on African development, Africa's wealth paradox, which talks about how Africa, the continent with all of this immense resources, over $25 trillion of identified immense resources, but the people who sit on the lands that are on under which these resources are located are the poorest people in the world. That's a tremendous paradox. I also put up another one, a short video, The Longevity Secret. And I put up another one, which, I just put up those 2. But I want people to look at these new videos, these short videos I'm creating, because I think they're targeted right to the heart of the solution. And I am using ancestral intelligence to create these.
Now, where are you posting the video?
They're up on my YouTube page. I've posted up probably about 8 or 10 of them of recent. If you're familiar with my YouTube page, it's the same one that we're on broadcasting with live right now with a mastermind.
Okay, because I just wanted to point out something. One of the reasons that Trump and his people wanted to go after TikTok is because they want to control a certain demographic. The Zionists jumped on it and are the ones who are attempting to buy it and take it over because they recognize that many of the young people on there who are using that medium have rejected the Israeli narrative, the Zionist narrative, and they feel some empathy towards the Palestinians, people of Gaza, and the Zionists want to cut that off. And so the videos that you're creating are valuable. The key thing is we have to have means so that the people and the public can access them. And I think in addition to YouTube, can you put them on LIB? You know, because remember, you used to have spaces. We had the Ning platform. People used to post videos up there.
I was just thinking.
So the more medium that you have, the better you're going to be, because keep in mind, we're still in this major censorship suppression mode with the algorithms and things like that, shadow banning, things like that.
And then you got bots too, which are non-entities that are pretending to be entities, and they're sowing discord and chaos and isfed as well.
That's right. We're going to do the best we can. I do not have a TikTok account, and I'm very reluctant to spend all day searching around Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, a whole bunch of other things. I don't think it's a good use of my time. But at the same time, the stuff needs to get out, and people do need to get there. I wish others could pick up the slack and help me out, but I've been wishing for that for 15 years. Well, let's talk about some other things here. Donald Trump has now proposed insanity is his global policies, taking over Greenland and essentially declaring the end of NATO, the breakup of NATO. I don't think that's a bad idea, but you know, taking over Greenland. Greenland's been occupied by European colonists for quite some time. The Inuit people have been colonized for centuries. And then, as King Jason reminds me, we're not talking about his declaring the U.S. is in an insurrectionary state, and that Minnesota is now to be targeted for basically a civil war.
Mm.
If we listen to the language and understand what that language means, a civil war against Minnesota, calling in the 182nd Brigade of Army or whoever they are to invade U.S. territory in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act.
Well, the issue is the Civil War is already going on. That's
Right.
what sending in mass ICE agents is.
Mhm.
It's a PSYOP, but it's also a preparation. PSYOPs do prepare the target population for certain tactics and certain maneuvers. They're getting us ready to see armed agents, militias on our streets, military vehicles on our streets. You talk about the Posse Comitatus Act. He sent troops into LA, Memphis, Chicago without the request of the mayors or the governors of those states. So we're already at war. It's just that the propaganda and the mind control apparatus structures the narrative so that we don't make the connection of what's really going on. So we're seeing, just as you said, the devolution of this country. The empire is imploding. And the people who are pushing for this, they're really having a party right now, because it's probably going to get worse. And there are forces, as we know, who are pushing this narrative. They're so glad that that lady was killed, so now they can ramp it up and they can keep the demonstrations moving, and hopefully some more people will get killed, or there'll be some more atrocities that they can used to further divide the country along ideological and political lines, so that we're almost at the point where we were back in the 60s, where you had the anti-war or the peace movement against the war in Indochina. And the same thing was going on. You had that, but you also had the actual wars in Southeast Asia. So we're repeating history again.
I agree. There's a Zero Hedge article dated January 15th of this year, 2026. Chaos is the strategy, and too many are helping it succeed. I thought that was an interesting article, which talks about some of what you just mentioned, Baba Junius.
Yeah, I put up an article called MAGA equals chaos. And it's a very it's my take on what's going on, what Trump is doing in terms of upsetting the various orders, and who, I don't go into all the details of who's benefiting from it, but certainly it's not us.
Right. Exactly.
Kitty, are you still having issues with your audio and microphone? Because I saw your lips moving, but I didn't hear any audio. So I don't know if he can hear us or not.
Yeah, I don't know either. Baba Kitty, can you hear us?
No, he can't.
Yeah, he might be trying to reconfigure something. I wanted to, I'll point out this comment from the chat, if I may, Baba. Eddie McCory said, I think the people think that they are advancing with the smart things. Well, I think the more simple life is the better off we are. Farming, gardening, walking, cutting wood, and making our clothing. And I'll add fetching water to that as well. Chopping wood and fetching water. That's one of the old sayings. I completely agree with him. You know, I think we are just inundated with all this stimulus. Everything is fighting for our attention, such that we no longer are introspective. We no longer contemplate things. We no longer go within. We no longer give ourselves a pause, a moment to just stretch our eyes to the horizon, and therefore expand our minds enough to be able to think about what the heck we're doing and where we're going, both individually and collectively.
And you said it, but you didn't use this term, out of directed. We're programmed to be out of directed. We're not programmed to be meditative, introspective, to take assessments of ourselves, of our inner kingdom. And that is something that we need to share with our people. Its importance. This meditative state can help us lower our anxiety levels, the stress, the hypertension that we suffer from, lower our dependence on pharmaceuticals, and also have a sense of being connected, because once you go into those states, you're more apt to hear the still small voice, that voice of intuition that is always correct, no matter how absurd it may seem. And we need to differentiate that voice from the mind chatter, what's called the monkey chatter that's in our mind. Exactly. The voice, need to recognize the voice of Tahuti as opposed to the craziness that is out here, or whatever you want to call it, the still small voice, an angel, whatever reason you want to call it. So those are the things that we need to develop that we have lost.
Ashe. Baba Kitty, I think we can hear you now.
Okay, I am in the house, and I'm going to get ready to check out as soon as possible, because I am really not feeling my microphone going in and out right now. let's begin to wrap it up. I apologize for the problems today. It was my fault for turning it on too early and then leaving it off the charger. But final thoughts and anything that we haven't talked about yet today?
Getting back to the early conversation about the off the chainness of Donald Trump, he suspended immigration visas for 75 countries, but for a total of 39 African nations. And this is up at theafricareport.com. Algeria, Cameroon, Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Liberia, Libya, Morocco, Nigeria, Republic of the Congo, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Tanzania, Togo, Tunisia, and Uganda. And also he's threatened to levy tariffs on Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the Netherlands, 10% in the beginning, and it will go up to like 25% unless they agree to his takeover of Greenland. He also demands Venezuela cease business relations with Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba. And let me see what else he orders tariffs on any country doing business with Iran. And as a counter, Russia, China, Iran conduct military naval drills off of South Africa. So all these things are going on. A lot of them are in direct response to Trump's craziness and his outlandish and mostly illegal actions. So we see that what he's doing is impacting Africa with that list of nations that he's denying visas to.
And what was the source for the African countries that are affected?
TheAfricaReport.com.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Baba.
Mm-hmm. I do have one story. I got this from allafrica.com. U.S. slams South Africa for hosting naval drills with not only Iran, but also Russia and China. South African naval drills. So it looks like in the aftermath of Venezuela, a BRICS force seems to be more and more coming to fruition. Is that what we're seeing?
Well, that was one of the things that I just mentioned, and the two stories that I saw on it. One analysis was that this was in preparation for defense of Iran with Trump's pending attacks on Iran. But it's also, I agree with you, it's also a response to the piracy. And keep in mind, piracy was big during the so-called age of exploration and discovery. Piracy was warfare on the high seas that these barbarians and just vandals and Goths just brought onto the high seas, replicating the Vikings and the Norse people. And so they had to come up with these maritime laws to try to cool that out. And Trump is in violation of all international law and international order. And it just shows you how fragile the Isfenian mindset is in terms of law and ways of doing things that are mutually beneficial, that generate peace and harmony. It's just not happening. This is out and out piracy, what he's doing.
Right.
And there's going to be a pushback on it, just like they denounced the people of Somalia, or just like they denounced the Houthis. This is even worse, because his influence, his sphere of influence, is in international water. I mean, it's out now piracy on the high seas.
That's right. Luta continue. It's going to be getting worse. And this situation, there was a comment in the chat, I think it was necessary. King Jason talking about what's happening with Minnesota. He says it's a con game to get us in the streets. Next, he will pardon Dexter Chauvin to infuriate us and get us, or directs Chauvin to infuriate us and get us writing so he can then militarize further. So are black people in America being led into a trap by the MAGA forces to get us further isolated in this MAGA reality of Americans' political domestic crisis?
Well, they're using our reactionary responses, our maladaptive responses to stuff. But I think there's more it's the MAGA, I call them the MAGAites, the militia, the white militias and all of them who idolize ICE. They want to go after the modern day versions of the hippies, or what's the girl that they called her, she was the one who sicked the police on the brother that was walking the dog in Central Park, and they call all white women who act irrationally like that, they call her name. But that's who they want to get hyped up as part and parcel of this ongoing Civil War 2.0 that we spoke about at least 8 to 10 years ago on LIB on the Falcon Forum.
Yeah. You had a comment, Brother Juara?
No, I had a couple of articles that I was just going to quickly mention, if I'm not cutting you Babas off. France bans forever chemicals in cosmetics, fashion, and ski wax. So I thought that was interesting. It's a very in-depth article about PFAS and forever chemicals. Here's something very interesting. UK government video game warns kids they may be terrorists for questioning mass migration. The game is developed by Shoutout UK with funding from Prevent. It targets 11 to 18-year-olds. The players guide a character named Charlie, who is oddly enough using they pronouns in the video game. Through everyday scenarios, they quickly spiral into warnings of extremism. So this is a government-funded video game in the UK, taxpayer-funded, that is being used as a form of very hardcore propaganda. And we know the U.S. military does the same thing. I had mentioned several years ago how there was a little kind of like an outdoor festival, summer festival. And what the Army National Guard did is they brought in a trailer filled with military-style video games. And the children were allowed to just play these first-person shooter video games to their heart's content, and then maybe even sign their life away to the U.S. war machine at the same time.
And from my understanding, they're using these video games to recruit warriors to be drone operators in this new battlefield, this new battlefront place. So drone operators being recruited from young people in America. Ooh, that sounds crazy, crazy, crazy.
But don't forget. But don't forget that with the late NDAA, they're emphasizing that these young people are still required to sign up for service. They don't call it a draft, or they don't call it conscription, but they're talking about service. So that's on the table.
That's right.
And then
luta continua. The struggle will continue.
Ashe. And then
you were saying.
Thank you, Baba. One last article that I had wanted to get both of your opinions on is let's see here. I just lost it. Okay, Trump to crash Davos, drop hammer on West globalists. Agree or disagree?
But he's part and parcel of the globalist agenda.
I agree. I agree. So maybe the illusion of these two separate polarized entities that are in reality running the same program.
Well, he's gaming his followers one more time and just going for the okie doke. Remember he said America first. He was going to avoid these forever wars. He was going to do this. He was going to. But look at all the things he's done. He was a proponent of Operation Warp Speed, the vaccines. He's done so many other things that are in accordance with the New World Order, with the transition away from the dollar. He's embraced Bitcoin. He's doing everything he can to mess up the economy by trying to force them to lower interest rates, and on and on and on. So I just feel sorry for his followers, because he's just going to betray them time and time and time again.
And then lastly,
that's right.
Sorry, go ahead, Baba.
No, you got the floor.
And then lastly, Trump appoints Rubio, Witkoff, Kushner, and Blair to Gaza board of quote-unquote board peace.
Yeah, and border peace. Come on, Dad.
Exactly. And a huge part of that article mentioned the redevelopment, the restructuring.
That's what they're talking about. Remember how after they invaded Iraq, they appointed Paul Bremer as a consul. Clearly, they were thinking in terms of the Roman Empire. Well, this is just another version of that. It's just instead of one person, it's going to be these guys. And it's
Sounds
not about
like Caligula
it's
all
not
over
about
again.
It's not about peace. It's about ethnic cleansing, because one of their charges is to get the people out so they can redevelop it, so that they can take advantage of its location and do it to benefit basically the Zionists.
Well, on that article from Zero Hedge, Gaza is just decimated. The photo, the main photo it looks like a barren wasteland now.
Well, there's still people living there. Their objective is to get them out.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And one of the things that's been suggested is that because Netanyahu recognized Somaliland, that they want to use Somaliland as a place that they can relocate a lot of these people from Gaza. The last thing I wanted to point out is the economic situation. Well, 2 million automobiles have been repossessed in 2025. Mortgage delinquencies are up. Student loan delinquencies are up at a 21-year high, up to 30%. And the U.S. adds $5 billion to the national debt every day. And U.S. foreclosures are up 14% in 2025. And I forgot to write down the source. Oh, I got it off of it was an article on the Burning platform. So if you can go up the Burning platform and look at, you'll probably see that article. I can't.
All right, and on that link, brothers, I gotta get out of here. My battery's dying again, and I'm not gonna go through that again. Thank you all for all you brought. It was a very high quality program. We actually did cram a lot of very valuable information into the time we had. I apologize for ducking out early, but we do the best we can with what the Creator has put on the table for us to participate in. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIBRadio, LIBTV. We are living in black.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.